Hey Cloud Gamers, this week we've got Assassin's Creed Valhalla and the Series X. So we thought we would pit Stadia and our best cloud gaming rig, the Maximum Settings 2080 Super, against the Series X to see how it performs. Special thanks to Maximum Settings for providing the game key for the PC version here and also for providing an extra key for giveaway, so do check out the giveaway in the Discord below. So we've got Google Stadia on the left, the Maximum Settings 2080 Super rig in the middle, and the Series X on the right. The maximum settings rig is running at high settings, and you can see that it's struggling to hold more than 30 frames per second here, so definitely looks like most of these will be running 30 across the board. As we go to the synchronization point here though, it's very clear that the Series X seems to be holding that higher frames per second. Definitely seems to be pushing 60, but the graphics settings are definitely much lower than the maximum settings rig. As we do the second sync here, now it's all lined up, we'll pause over the water section here with the mountains, and now we can clearly see these visual differences. The maximum settings 2080 Super, even just on high, has much higher graphics quality than the other two. Stadia definitely on the lower settings here and only that 30 frames per second, whereas the Series X seems to be somewhere in the middle and does seem to be pushing that 60 frames per second mark. Maximum settings pushing slightly more than 30, but having that higher detail definitely makes a huge difference for me, especially in Valhalla. If you did want to try and push that 60 frames per second, you could probably drop it down to medium, but as I said, I prefer the slightly higher graphics quality. But it is nice to have the 60 frames per second on the Series X. To be honest, unless you have these side by side, you don't notice the differences as much. But again, you can see here as we use the Raven, these maximum settings detail at 4K is far superior than the Series X and Stadia. So although the Series X is extremely powerful, they are not pushing the PC graphics just yet. And then to have that 60 frames per second does make a huge difference, so it really depends on whether you want quality or performance. As we do the boss fight here, you can see the difference in the colour and contrast. I think maximum settings has got the best balance here. The Series X I did have to turn off the HDR mode because my recorder doesn't seem to play too well with it, as it supports HDR10. So on a TV with HDR10, Series X does actually look absolutely phenomenal and a lot better than the other two, but quality wise maximum settings still has it. As we move over to Google Stadia on its own then, this is the Chromecast Ultra footage running at 4K, thanks to Project Storm for providing this. Do check out his channel in the link below. And once again, when we're running at 4K and on its own, we can see that the quality isn't quite as high as the others, which we'll come on to shortly, but you kind of get used to it, and it still looks absolutely phenomenal. And that performance, although locked at 30 frames per second, it is very stable and it is very reliable. We never see really any frame drops or issues with the streams, but we always get a solid 30 frames per second, even though we do believe that it could probably manage 60, especially at these graphic settings. We really hope to see them push more titles on Stadia at higher frame rates, and we're definitely looking forward to Gen 2, especially now the Series X is being a serious contender, especially as the Series X is becoming more of a contender. As we move over to the Series X then, we can see that the quality is quite a lot higher than that on Stadia, and straight away we can see that 60 frames per second, much more fluid and higher quality. But at the end of the day, you will have to drop over 450 quid for this versus the free deal on Stadia if you've got a YouTube Premium member. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is an extremely fun game, and I will be playing a lot more of this, but I will most likely be playing it on maximum settings or the Series X. Ubisoft Plus still not being available on Stadia is a contention of mine. Hopefully that will be there by the end of the year as promised. But to be honest, I do absolutely love the fluidity of the Series X and also the graphics settings here. Although not quite as high as the maximum settings or the PC version, it still looks more than good enough. Now we move over to that maximum settings rig. Again, you can see it's holding 30 frames per second quite happily, so on par with the Stadia version, but the graphics quality here is so much higher. You don't notice it as much in the kind of battle bits there, apart from when you've got quite a few people, although we do see the occasional stutter. For me, I'm using the maximum settings rig in the UK, and this is still on their Canadian servers, so I have got around 100 millisecond ping, although it's not as noticeable a lot of the time. And again, you see a bit of a lag spike there. Again, because it's maxing out this GPU, if you have a look at the stats above, we're hitting 96 to 97% a lot of the time at 4K. And as it does max out, that's where you see some of those stutters, because it's not being able to stream it at the same time. I can't wait for these rigs to come to Europe. It would definitely make a huge difference. Another shout out to Maximum Settings for providing the key here, and don't forget to check out the Discord giveaway below if you're watching this before the end of Friday the 13th for your chance to win an Assassin's Creed Valhalla code. So as we come back side by side onto the longboat, again the Series X is looking a little bit darker here because the HDR10 mode's off, but across the board we can see those quality differences again, and Maximum Settings with the PC version definitely having that higher quality. But Series X is definitely owning the frames per second and the mid-range quality. So it really is going to be your preference where to play. If you've got Ubisoft Plus, unfortunately this is not available on the consoles right now. So PC or GeForce Now, Shadow, or just normal PC is going to be where you want to be picking Assassin's Creed Valhalla up. Otherwise, Stadia is still a solid choice for that compatibility everywhere. And the Series X is definitely the best way to play this right now, if you manage to pick one up. Thanks for watching, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all the latest across all cloud gaming platforms, and I will see you next time.